I've always been a big fan of George Gershwin's music. I think it's the mixture of the American jazz influence combined with his obvious classical training that I've always found so appealing. When I wrote this little tune, George's Brooklyn Blues, which you'll find in issue 71 of Pianist magazine, undoubtedly I had the second movement of George Gershwin's piano concerto in mind. If you don't know this work, perhaps have a quick listen to it so you'll understand my intention in this piece. Interestingly, despite this being a composition for piano, I can so clearly hear in my mind an orchestrated version. For me, I'd have the solo clarinet playing the main theme, maybe the trombones playing those left-hand chromatic chords. Sometimes, in fact, it does help to think of a piano piece in orchestral terms. You may find it will add more life and colour to your performance. One glance over the piano score might initially look a bit scary due to the number of accidentals. There seems to be sharps and flats everywhere. Indeed, the accompaniment part can be very chromatic, and it's this chromaticism that provides us with the immediate challenge for our pedalling. It needs to be clear and precise. Otherwise, any overlapping of the chordal movement will just sound messy and dissonant. Just the left hand, for example, at bar 9 could be very messy with too much pedalling. You can in fact see that the score indicates some fairly complicated pedalling for the first few bars. I'd like to suggest, however, that you try relying on your ears rather than taking the score markings too literally. We just want to avoid any overlaps and note clashes. Have another listen to me playing this piece, but this time with my camera focused on my foot so you can see how often I pedal each section, and notice sometimes the pedal isn't fully dampened. You could see that I'm pedaling nearly every chord, and in some cases I'm half pedaling. Half pedaling, as it suggests, happens when the pedal isn't fully raised. This means that the strings on a traditional piano may be left partially open. Of course, the more sophisticated digital pianos like this one will mimic that effect too. So rather than all the notes stopping, some will carry on playing, but probably at a lower level. If I just play a chord and try half pedaling, listen to the effect and watch my foot at the same time. Can you see how quickly I pedaled, and hopefully you could hear the audible effect where the sound drops quickly but still carries on sustaining. Now this effect will vary on both acoustic and digital pianos. In fact, this particular digital piano, the HP 505, is designed to be very sensitive to the movement in your foot. So now, if we apply this to a section of the piece at bar 5, I clear the sustain pedal fully here, but on the chromatic runs, I'm using half pedal. Good pedaling takes practice, but in time it becomes second nature, where your ears tell you how and when to pedal. Now, the word blues can refer both to its melancholic nature and in part to its chord structure. Obviously, you don't really need to worry about the harmony here, as you'll not be improvising, just playing what's written, unlike a jazz pianist. But think about the interpretation. I've put wistfully expressive. Blues-influenced music is rarely ever joyful. I guess that would defeat the object. So really try to tell a story in your performance as if there were a dialogue like so. How about an expressive approach? The layout of this piece is quite contrapuntally rich. Of course, the theme plays the most important part, but there are other voices to consider too, and how they contribute. Bar 2, for example, sees the left hand reinforce the melody with this parallel movement. And then the right hand introduces this whimsical sigh. This is a typical Gershwin motif. You'll find a few of these in this piece, especially at bar 9. And of course at the end. Now also be careful to make the distinction between these sigh motifs and the melody. At bar 2, for example, the melody leaps up a fifth, but the listener could easily hear the melody as a continuation and less clearly voiced. Whereas the wrong way, the melody gets lost. So when these little motifs occur, we're looking to clearly distinguish them from the melody line, of course. This is where your finger independence is so important. Try practicing that favorite trick. We play the melody legato and we play the harmony line staccato and soft. You could even try reversing the articulation. Not always easy to do. Now, of course, I've been using acoustic piano sound. The HP 505, like many digital pianos, has other sounds. In fact, you may like to try an electric piano sound. I've selected one here. It's a vintage electric piano, and I'm going to try playing the piece. So, as I mentioned, if you listen to the second movement of Gershwin's piano concerto, some of these musical suggestions will make more sense. It's a fabulous piece of music too, so it certainly won't do any harm to take the time to listen to it. The challenge for all performers of Gershwin's music has always been to preserve the exacting standards of a classical approach, but then to try and loosen up a bit with the jazz influence. So chill out and dig the vibe.